It's the Chiller Theater first. We haven't done a Q&A with the Walking Dead person. And this person is a phenomenal actor, long career, still going. Scott Wilson is here, so let's give Scott a big round of applause. You can do a little better than that, come on. Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Everyone's good? All right.
You have 2 legs.
Sounds better.
This one must be for the other head that I keep at home in my closet. I was going to bring it.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of things, and not always the obvious. But I guess, was there a moment today and yesterday when somebody did not ask you about The Walking Dead?
No, I don't think that's happened in a long time. Which is a good thing.
So, you have... Thank you. You have some amazing credits. In the Heat of the Night, Cold Blood, The Right Stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. One of my favorite films, and on and on. Let's not talk about Walking Dead right now, just a second. So what's a personal favorite role of yours?
You mean in anything?
In anything.
Well, getting my
fair.
first role was incredible. And after doing plays, which I loved, and workshops for 5.5 years, got my first film interview in the Heat of the Night. And then I'm working with Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. Are you kidding? I mean, that's pretty classy company to be starting out with. So it was cool. I'm chewing this chewing gum, and I was just thinking of Steiger chewing the gum in that film. But that was, you know, a good start. That was a good start.
So that was like a memory that stayed with you all this time, like such a potent, strong, vivid.
Yeah. Well, I don't think about it every day.
No, but when asked.
And when asked, you know, I go back to that. And then that leading to In Cold Blood, which was a pretty good film too. So it was a good opening.
Yeah. Now, what's up ahead of a few years? The Ninth Configuration, which is a very interesting movie. It touches a lot of different areas. Amazing performances. Do you have any stories about that film?
How much time do you have? I mean, we were in Budapest for 17 weeks, and that was during the Iron Curtain days. And it was quite interesting. A lot of great actors who were also great characters. William Peter Blatty, who's great talent, but also a great character. It was a lot of fun working on it. It was, and again, it's behind the Iron Curtain, which added to all kinds of. It would take a long time to write it, but I had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of memories. I left my home state of Georgia when I was 19. I hitchhiked to California. And I got drunk and ended up in an acting class. I wanted to see some of the world, and I have. Now I'm here in New Jersey. This is a major part of the world right here.
Yeah, New Jersey is almost like the capital of the world to some people.
Yeah, it's great. I love the people here. They're terrific. But my first film out of the country was in Yugoslavia. What was Yugoslavia at the time? And then I've worked in Italy and Spain and Japan and Israel, Germany, Poland, South Korea,
Georgia.
Georgia, that's another country off its own. Couldn't get away from it, but it's been a fun life. And had 2 audiences with Pope John Paul II.
Yes, you told me about that personally. Yeah. Would you like to share with them? Like, maybe not everyone knows about that. How did that come about?
Well, I did a film in Poland in 1984 that during martial law. If you know what, if you remember that, those of you who are old enough to remember it. And it was a Polish film with a Polish director, Polish cast. I mentioned that because 9 years we talked about doing it. We finally got the film made. Then we won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival with it. That was pretty cool. And the same director later asked me to play the protagonist in a film that was based on a play that Karol Wojtyła, who later became Pope John Paul II, wrote. And this guy who lived from 1845 to 1917, he was an artist, a successful artist, and he came in contact with the homeless and it changed his life. He dedicated the balance of his life to helping the homeless. And Mother Teresa's sister studied with the Albertine sisters, an order that he founded before they went to India to help the poor there. So as a result of that, we had a screening for the Pope at Castel Gandolfo, the summer residence outside Rome. That was the second one. The first one was in Krakow in Poland. So it was, and I asked him to sign my script, which was a breach of protocol, but I asked the director, I said, "Do you think it'd be all right if I asked him to sign my script?" He said, "Oh." He says, "What does oh mean?" He said, "Well, it'd be a breach of protocol." He said, "But he might, he's a rebel." So I screwed up my courage and asked my wife to give him the script.
It's an amazing story.
And he signed it.
Yeah. Now, The Right Stuff, a couple years later, do you have a particular remembrance about that film?
Well, I loved it. I know it was coming off of a stretch of 4 years that I hadn't worked, which is pretty nerve-wracking. If you knew you weren't going to work for 4 years, you might think of doing something else, but I didn't know at the time, and I think I couldn't have been more fortunate to come out after a 4-year dry spell to get to be in that film, because I think it's a great movie. I think it's wonderful. Real American heroes. The test pilots, the astronauts. Real nice film to say I was in.
Do you have any particular recollection of anything that happened during making that movie?
Oh, there's several, really. I remember when I met Chuck Yeager, who was the first pilot to break the sound barrier. And I walked up to him and said, "Excuse me, General Yeager, I'm Scott Wilson, I'm playing one of the test pilots." He had a big smile. He says, "Who are you playing?" I said, "Scott Crossfield." He goes, and walked away. That kind of told me all I needed to know about the competition between the test pilots. Right. But later his son came up and talked to us and talked to me, and he got us together and we became friends. So he's a great guy. He was wonderful, but I understood where he was coming from, and I didn't need to ask too many more questions after that.
You have real, loyal fan base.
That's cool. Great. I love it. Thank you.
always ask about you, and I filled this room. I have stuff I want to talk about, but I know that these people, hopefully, have questions. So, does anybody have a question? All the way.
What was your experience like working on the Gypsy Moths?
Oh, that was great. That was the second film I did with Burt Lancaster. The first one was Castle Key. And I was in Yugoslavia with it for about 6 months.
I got a call
I don't know. I got a call from him one morning, and he says, "Kid, I got a great role for you." I said, "Who is this?" He said, "It's Burt." I said, "Burt who?" He says, "Burt Lancaster." I said, "Burt, call me back in 30 minutes. Let me take a shower and get a cup of coffee." I think I'd reverted back at that time to having a drink before, you know. But he called me back and told me about the role, and then John Frankenheimer called me, and I was on a plane that afternoon flying to Kansas. So he was, I thought the world of Burt. He was a great guy. I miss him.
Yes.
Question: how would you say you got involved with the character of becoming Herschel, and also, do you think that you relate very well to his personality? And knowing the fact that he was going to die in the series, would you have still taken the role?
That's 3 questions.
I
Well, I think the way I got involved was Frank Darabont, when he was going to film school, was a big fan of the ninth configuration that we've talked about earlier. I think he told me he went to see it 12 times, and each time he took a different group of people with him. So he liked that film, and actually before I arrived on the set of The Walking Dead, he gave the rest of the cast members copies of In Cold Blood and the ninth configuration, so they would know, you know, who was joining them. Because a lot of them were younger, and probably, you know, maybe they knew me, maybe not, but we wanted to make sure. So that's how I got on the film. Now, what was your...
Would you say that you relate to the character as, like, do you put some of your relations of how you act and how your personality is into the role of the character?
Well, I think it's inevitable you're going to put some of yourself, a lot of yourself, in motion. Doesn't mean it's the same thing that you live with every day, but everyone has things where you make discoveries about yourself in relationship to the characters you're playing. I've played good guys and I've played bad guys. Herschel was a good guy, and it's fun to play a good guy that has a little edge to him, you know, because I think that's one thing that made him interesting, is that he was human. He did, you know, go to the bar to get drunk. And it was suggested that he had an adventuresome life before, you know, settling down, raise his 2 daughters. But there's a lot of, you know, did that answer anything?
And I just want to know, like, would you have still taken the role knowing that you were going to die, you know?
I think everyone on the show knows they're going to die soon.
Watch out, Glenn, they're coming for you.
No one gets out of this life alive.
It's only a matter of time, I guess, before they all go.
And the show ain't in life.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Seeing that Herschel had so many limitations, how far do you think he could throw with the ball?
Part, I think, what?
How far can he throw a wiffle ball?
He could probably hit it further with his crutch than he could throw it.
Anyone on this side? Hi, yes, sir.
Yeah, would you did something different if say, you had the choice of how the governor's demise would have been?
You know, I'm always thinking, you don't want to die. You know you're going to, but that doesn't mean you want to.
The governor. I mean,
Yeah, I know, but he was taking me out. Maybe I should have jumped up and taken him out. I mean, that's. But David Morrissey did a great job. He's a good guy. Play golf, he beats me. That's the worst part.
I think that was like one of the most shocking scenes in, and like a contemporary television series that you're watching and all of a sudden becoming invested in the characters, become invested in your character. And it's like a big oh shit moment.
But you know what was fun, I think, about the scene for me was the way it was set up before. You have this big tank down the bottom of the hill with the governor. You have these cars with heavy-duty weaponry. And they're shouting, the governor's shouting up to the prison, come on down. And Rick starts walking down the hill with a six-shooter on his hip. With a tank and these heavy-duty weapons. I'm saying, what's wrong with this picture? It's like High Noon with a six-shooter against a tank. I love the staging.
Yeah, it was almost surreal.
Yeah, it was
Very surreal.
yeah.
I'm not even sure when that moment happened that you actually watched that, because that was the last thing you saw before I went into like I think it was a Talking Dead episode.
But that was fun. But film is a collaborative medium. I mean, everyone comes together to make a moment happen, and that's an example of it. The stage was set, the table was set, and with the weapons, the gun coming down, the tension is kind of percolating, it's building. Then, at a certain point, the director, Dickinson, came up and says, Scott, it's time for that smile. Okay, boss. It was, you know, so I smiled, that was my contribution. It was a cool day. All the crew and even up in the front office, everyone came down to the set. They were all wearing Herschel suspenders. Walk on the set, they're applauding. You know, it's kind of got you a little choked up. It's cool.
After that, Herschel made an appearance. Flashback. So, which I was surprised to see. Anyone? Next question. Yes?
How did you feel when you found out your character was so loved?
Well, it makes you feel good. In contrast, you want to hear a contrast. I was in Dubrovnik, Yugoslavia, when In Cold Blood was released in this country. And I hadn't seen anyone that had seen the film, audience. And I was in a hotel at the desk with an actor by the name of Michael Conrad. Big, tall guy. And these two girls came up to us, and one of them said to him, "You look familiar." And I said, "He's a movie star. You recognize him from the movies." And one of them said to me, "You look familiar." And he said, "You recognize him from his movie?" "Yeah, what movie?" "In Cold Blood." He goes, and they started screaming and getting away from me, as backing up as fast as they could. So I think I would prefer people liking me than, than backing up screaming. But, it was good because, the film, a film or play is different in that you recognize the full arc of your character and play it one evening or in a film or a guest shot on TV. You recognize the full arc while you're doing it. In this, there's 3 seasons where there's kind of an organic development that takes place, and so you're not really sure where it's going to go, how it's going to get there, but you will plant a seed here and hope that it bears fruit over there, and that maybe it'll add up to something. So you have ideas about who you want the character to be, how you want how you want the character to play out, and the writers, the editors, and directors. It's all a collaborative, so it's fun.
I know I had a tear. I felt really bad when he died. Really bad. I was like, wow. This
You
is
should have heard my banker.
Yeah, you were there when Frank Darabont was there, and then the next producer, and then there was another producer after that. Were you there for all 3?
For all 3 of the showrunners, yeah.
Wow. And
They're
did
fun.
you feel like they were taking your character in different directions? Or
Well, they were, Frank was there when I first got it. And actually, I was at home for my mother's 97th birthday, which is pretty cool. She'll be 101 in May. So I was there for her birthday, and I was remarking to an old friend of mine that as long as I've been acting, as much production has taken place in Georgia, I've never worked with. 30 minutes later, the phone rang. My representative said, there's interest in you for 2 or 3 episodes, new TV series. What's it about? Zombies. Okay, tell me some good news. Not that I did have anything against zombie movies. But he said, Frank Darabont and Gil Ann Hurd. I said, I'm interested. Because they make great movies. They're creative people. They're involved in something that has a good chance of being something special. So I looked at the first season with my mother, and she said, Scott, you have to do this. I didn't know she liked zombie movies. And then she read the script. She said, can I read the script? I said, who's going to stop it? She can still kick my ass. But she read them, and again she said, Scott, you really have to. Not the best script. If I hadn't, paying the price. No. So it was I don't know what we were talking about.
no, I was asking about being there for all 3 different producers.
Yeah.
And if they tore you in
Well,
different directions, right?
I'll be going to Toronto next week to work with the second one, Lynn Mazzara. He's doing a new series, showrunner on Damien. That's based on the old film The Omen. So that'll be fun to work with.
Is that be just one shot or a recurring?
Well, it's one shot, but I read the script. It looks to me like
Yes.
I'm just wondering what your take is on the current situation with Bruce Jenner.
I missed
It's
that.
big in the news, man.
I haven't really paid that close attention. I read yesterday's newspaper, article about this. Didn't really read it.
So you won't get on the internet. Scott Wilson says. I see a long hand back there. Yes.
Scott, did you follow the books at all? Because Kirkman kind of had his way in the comic books, and he went one way. He comes into the TV show, and he's kind of having his cake and eating it too. You know, and he says, well, now I can go back and revisit this. Is there, if you've read into the comics at all, have you ever say, oh man, I wish he had stayed true to the book, or wish he hadn't stayed true to the book?
That's the reason I didn't read the books.
Oh, really?
Because I know me, and I know that if there was something in there that I felt strongly about, that I would stand up for. And I felt that it was working just fine the way it was. The writers come to the material, the making the choices that I made as an actor based on that rather than on, you know, but the source material. I will read it. I will catch up.
Yeah, especially where, you know, where the governor, you know, meets his end. That's a major turning point there. It's, you know, it really zagged where the book zigged.
Yeah, I've heard that about a lot of.
Yeah.
Going to shift gears a little bit here. I'm going to ask you about CSI. And I thought you did a good job on that, actually. The way you were portraying that character, I thought he actually really had a problem. But, you know, any thoughts about your time on CSI and, well, getting it back to what everyone's talking about, do you think that had any influence on the way on your character on The Walking Dead?
I enjoyed working on the show. I worked with Danny Cannon on a film called Judge Dredd. The director of Judge Dredd was the director of the pilot, was one of the executive producers on CSI. And he called me and asked me if I played the role on the casino in Vegas. And he said, sure, without reading it. Because, you know, I like to. So we got there, and then he asked me back the next season, asked me if I wanted to revive the character for another episode, and it turned into a few more. So it was, they killed me off there.
Is Scott's mic cutting out?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's better?
Is better?
Yeah.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
It's chiller, ain't
There you go.
Do you continue to watch The Walking Dead, and what's that experience like as a spectator as opposed to, you know, being involved in the production?
I kind of binge watch them mostly. So I'm still in contact with almost all of the people. Andrew Lincoln beat me at golf the other day. They all trick me. But it's fun.
One more question.
Go ask a question.
Do you think that the writers from The Walking Dead had it in for the Green family?
There's only one left. But there's, well, I think there are only like 5 left from the first season. 1 left from the second season. And maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 from the third season. Not too many. No, I don't think they have it in for everyone.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and I really want to thank Scott for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You did a great job.
It's the Chiller Theater first. We haven't done a Q&A with a Walking Dead person. And this person is a phenomenal actor, long career, still going. Scott Wilson is here, so let's give Scott a big round of applause. can do a little better than that. Come on.
I don't think that's happened in a long time, which is a good thing. So,
You have,
thank you.
you have some amazing credits. In the Heat of the Night, Cold Blood, The Right Stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. One of my favorite films, and on and on. Let's not talk about Walking Dead right now, just a second. So what's a personal favorite role of yours?
You mean in anything?
In anything.
Well, getting
be
my
fair.
first role was incredible. And after doing plays, which I loved, and workshops for 5.5 years, got my first film interview in the Heat of the Night. And then I'm working with Sidney Poitier and Rod Steiger. Are you kidding? I mean, that's pretty classy company to be starting out with. So it was cool. I'm chewing this chewing gum, and I was just thinking of Steiger chewing the gum in that film. But that was. Thank you. How are you? Good. Everyone's good? All right.
You have 2 legs.
Sounds better. This one must be for the other head that I keep at home in my closet. I was going to bring it.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of things, and not always the obvious. But I guess, was there a moment today and yesterday when somebody did not ask you about The Walking Dead?
You know, a good start. That was a good start.
So that was like a memory that stayed with you all this time, like such a potent, strong, vivid.
Yeah. Well, I don't think about it every day.
No, but when asked.
And when I ask, I go back to that. And then that leading to In Cold Blood, which was a pretty good film too. So it was a good opening.
Yeah. Now, what's up ahead of a few years? The 9th configuration, which is